What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice, your guys, Cody and Derek, back for another episode. And today, guys, we're going to look ahead to the Colts' second preseason game against the Detroit Lions. The Lions obviously come into town on Wednesday for joint practices Wednesday and Thursday. And the Colts and the Lions will actually be playing some starters in those, couple matchups. They're going to be a couple scrimmages they're going to have. But in terms of the preseason game, the Colts have said they're not going to play any of their starters. So, with that being said, what we wanted to do is kind of talk about a few guys that aren't necessarily starters that will probably see some action here in this game. Some players that we are rooting for that we feel like need to take big steps. We want to see them play really well based off of their, week one performance, based off of their draft stock, things of that nature. We just want to see them play well. So I think all in all, Derek, we have 7 guys in total that we're going to talk about today. Probably some other guys we could talk about as well, but these are some of the guys that are more the backups, more the spot starter type of guys that will probably see a lot of action in this game. The first guy I want to talk about is the Colts' third-round pick tackle, Bernhard Ryman, who is not your starter at left tackle. Matt Pryor is your starter at left tackle. He probably won't see any snaps. But that leaves Bernhard Ryman probably going to start off right away and play a lot of snaps again here in his second preseason game. He played a lot of snaps after the first team offense went out last week. And, kind of a mixed bag a little bit with some of his results. He is still kind of a raw player at that tackle position, only had 1 year in college at Central Michigan. So he's still kind of learning the position itself. But all that to say, he's got a lot of talent. A lot of people feel like he can do, some really good things, be a really good starter for a long time at left tackle. But at the end of the day, he's still a raw player. But as it comes to this preseason game, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to see out of Bernhard Ryman in his second official NFL game?
Yeah, I really want to just see him continue to work on the fundamentals. There were multiple times there he faced a bunch of different edge rushers in the Bills game the first time around. And, he faced some edge guys and he had problems. He had some guys that did strictly power rush and, somewhat held his own, but could have afforded to do better. It's just continuing to see him try to work out the fundamentals. That's going to be the part that gets him involved in that job to begin with. And I just want to see him continue to try to do better on that front. Because, like you said, he's not going to be the starter for a while. So here's the time to start refining your technique, especially since he's such a new player to the position.
He talked about the technical stuff. I think that's a lot of what it is for him. Like, he's got the talent, he's got the athletic ability, he's got those things that the Colts are looking for in a tackle. End of the day, though, like, he still has a lot of things, little things that he has to learn to be a starting tackle in this league. So I think the great thing about signing Matt Pryor back is that it didn't give Bernhard Ryman, like, all this pressure right away to perform, the indication in the case that, he wasn't ready, which is the case right now to be that starter. He has some time where he doesn't have to necessarily start and kind of have a trial by fire. They can kind of ease him in and work on some of those fundamentals. So, in a year or so, when he's ready to take that starting position, he has a year under his belt at least to kind of familiarize himself at the NFL level. So definitely want to see him continue to start to put it together a little bit. Another rookie that I thought played really well in his first preseason game with the team was Wesley French, the backup center right now as it stands. And, the Colts, I feel like they have a lot of confidence in a guy like Wesley French. They had to let a veteran like Jason Spriggs out the door, and Wesley French did not let them down in his first game as a pro for the Colts. So overall, I thought he had a solid game, to start, but he's got to put it together. He's got to have another nice week here against the Lions. He's got to have a nice game again, because I think he realistically now, Derek, could have a chance to be that backup center. And then, maybe if there's a situation where, if Ryan Kelly goes down, maybe the Colts don't feel like they have to move Danny Pinter necessarily from right guard to center anymore,
Yeah.
So what do you want to see from a guy like French? Just give me your thoughts overall on kind of what you saw in the week one action and what he needs to do to continue to potentially, earn his way onto this roster.
Well, I think he's already there. He's already earned his spot on this roster at this point, as long as something doesn't drastically happen. I'll be completely honest. I did not watch a lot of Wesley French film other than a few guys breaking down a few of the snaps that he had. But overall, looked like he did just fine in the middle of the field. And you're right. At this point, it's trying to find if you can get somebody to replace Ryan Kelly instead of just end up moving Danny Pinter to center and then replacing somebody else, right? I mean, you would want to be able to have somebody in placement of Ryan Kelly so that you didn't feel like Danny Pinter had to worry about which position he's going to play which week, right? So, Wesley French, if we can see another repeat performance of what we had week one, and based on what everyone else has been saying, that you know, it sounds like Wesley French could definitely be the bona fide backup for the center position.
And that would go a long way for the depth in the interior.
Yes.
This Colts depth interior has definitely taken a hit this offseason with letting both guys that play significant roles in the interior go, in free agency. So to see a guy like Wesley French already starting to make his own a little bit in this Colts offensive line room, and the fact that he's still a rookie, an undrafted rookie already making a name for himself, that's exciting in itself. Really looking forward to seeing, does he continue to invoke confidence from the Colts going forward. So looking forward to seeing how he performs here in week number 2. Let's talk about yet another rookie who I thought had a really nice preseason opener, but, really needs to continue to build on that. That's Jelani Woods, who the Colts took as well in the 3rd round. And, he's a guy that physically he's got it all there, kind of like Bernard Ryman. But he's also very young to the position as well. He's very raw. He's got a lot of traits that you love. Obviously, the Colts loved him. They took him that early, but he still is very raw, and he still has a lot of things to work on. But he did have a touchdown. He did get a little bit more confidence in the first preseason game. But now what do you need to see, Derek, for him to continue to build on that strong week 1 performance in the preseason and continue to establish himself as a legitimate presence in this tight end room?
He just needs to do what we've been saying this whole off season, is just continue to build on the progressions that he needs with the athleticism that he has. I mean, there's no question the athlete that he is, he just needs to get better. And we talked about it in previous videos that Jelani Woods has a lot being thrown his way by the coaching staff. They're purposefully testing him and testing his resolve. And obviously he's been struggling, but it was nice to see him get one good play in the scrimmage game. But I will say this, Jelani's blocking ability definitely scared me. I think a lot of people are just willing to overlook that aspect and forget the fact that, Jelani was one of the tight ends that helped give up a sack and a tackle for loss in the backfield because he just could not sustain a block. So at that moment in time, Jelani Woods still has a lot to work on and has a lot to get better at. But, you feel confident that he's going to continue to get better. And it is nice to have seen him get some kind of action from week 1.
Let's continue to move on here, talking about some young pass rushers the Colts have. First off, Banagoo. He's a guy that, former 2nd round pick, a lot of high expectations coming out of TCU, and really has not lived up to those expectations. And now you throw in a new scheme, right? A new scheme with Gus Bradley, which Banagoo himself has come out and said he feels like it's just better for him overall as a player. So what are you looking to see? Seems like he's had some strong performances, whether it's in camp recently or even in the preseason, had a couple nice pressures. What do you need to see from him here in week number 2?
I need to see him continue to build on that, on those moves that he used to get off of the line the first time. Because in that first game, I mean, the amount of times that Ben Banagoo had a pressure on the quarterback, but just couldn't quite make the sack because the ball got out in plenty of time. I mean, Ben Banagoo was on his way to have had like 3 or 4 sacks in that game on last Saturday, had a couple of blocks went his way, right? So it was nice to see Ben Banagoo continue to impress. Again, it was against backups, but nevertheless, I mean, he dominated. I mean, I'll just admit it. He dominated their second string. I mean, him and Dio, I mean, were just men on a mission in that last Saturday's game. And I really hope that we continue to see more of that, because that was really fun to watch from Ben Banagoo. And I mean, if he continues to work on those swim moves and those rip moves, I mean, he definitely, it could be this backup Leo position for quite a while.
Yeah, looking forward to what he does, and hopefully he continues to build, like you said. You talked already about Dio, so we'll talk about him. He also looked really, really good in his, kind of performance first preseason game for him. He looked really good as well. He was providing pressure. He's still figuring it out as a pass rusher, but the traits are all there, right? And he was, consistently providing pressure on the quarterback and really being a menace all day in that backfield. So, what do you need to see from Dio?
Well, I mean, we saw the pure talent from Dio this past weekend, and we really could have seen a lot more from him. There were times where he just bulldozed through guys, and it's amazing to see that. But at the end of the day, that that's not going to work a lot of times when you're facing more starters. So at the end of the day, he's going to have to continue to work on his technique. But I really did enjoy seeing him on a absolute tear multiple times. I mean, there was one time he dropped two linemen and then still was able to rebound off of almost falling over himself and then forcing the quarterback over. It was the interception that Weatherford had. I mean, Dio was the purpose because of that. So I mean, Dio has some good promising upside, but like Banagoo, he's just going to have to continue to work on his technique.
We'll talk about one more guy here. This guy's in the secondary. A guy that he had a really awesome interception on the week 1 game, but really hasn't been talked about a whole lot. He's an undrafted free agent. Really potentially could be that cornerback number 5. That's Dallas Flowers. We haven't talked about Dallas Flowers at all, but I feel like he's kind of had some strong performances recently. On Tuesday, he was actually had a little bit of run with the ones. So it seems like the Colts are pretty high on Dallas Flowers. What do you need to see from him here to potentially make you more confident that maybe he could be that cornerback number 5?
This is one of those positions that I'm honestly willing to throw my hat in the ring here, saying that this could be one of those surprise. It's not going to be a surprise cut, more like a surprise in, right? Where, I mean, we're looking for that cornerback depth right now. And I mean, one thing you could take away from last week's scrimmage was, Marvell Tell struggled at times, but Dallas Flowers did not. I mean, Dallas Flowers was all over the field, and you saw him with that one-handed interception in the red zone when the Bills were going for a 2-point conversion, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that coaches take notice of. And Dallas Flowers made plays. He was one of the few corners in that Colts secondary in that game that was running with the 2s and 3s that did make plays. So it was nice to see that, and it kind of just gives you the feeling of, okay, yeah, this guy could make it. Because, like we said, we saw Marvell Tell struggle, and Armani Watt's going to be a safety. We don't really know how far it goes back for this group, but if you saw Dallas Flowers making plays, and if we saw he's already getting some reps with the ones, I mean, it's going to show that they want to see more from him, and that's impressive. I mean, could this be one of those? What was it? What was the safety that we should have signed last year, but we didn't in training camp?
Sashiri,
yeah. It's another one of those situations, and we realistically could see that. I mean, we'll see, because, like I said, cornerback depth, we don't have a ton of it right now, and if Dallas Flowers this week continues to show improvement and continues to make plays, he's making a very strong case to be one of the last ones rounding out on this roster.
Yeah, and who would you rather have? Marvell Tell, who has been in the league a couple of years, really hasn't shown a whole lot, or Dallas Flowers, who undrafted guy that you don't know what his potential is. And I think I would personally rather have a guy like him if he continues to build and have strong performances and make plays. I mean, you could do a lot worse than Dallas Flowers as your cornerback 5. I'll just say that. So,
Yes.
yeah, really looking forward to that. If Nick Cross plays, I don't know if he will necessarily, but if he does play, he's obviously a guy we're rooting for as well. And then depending on the kickers as well, they say no starters, but at the end of the day, does Hot Rod still get the opportunity to compete with Jake Verity? I don't know exactly yet. But if those guys do, obviously we're rooting for them to win those jobs. But that'll do it, guys, for kind of our look at some guys that aren't necessarily starters, but are going to compete for some backup positions, potentially play some big roles for this team this year. Let us know your thoughts on some of these players, some guys that we're rooting for. Are there any other guys that you guys are rooting for in this Week 2 matchup against the Detroit Lions? Let us know that stuff in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all your support. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. Guys, thanks to you guys, our views are up like 200%. You guys are
Over
incredible.
200%.
That's insane. Like, you guys are awesome. So thank you so much for all your support. If you're still here and you haven't yet, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help push it out to more Colts Nation and just more of the NFL community in general. Let us know your thoughts, like I said, about this topic. And thank you guys so much. And as always, guys, go Colts.